But let's, of course, start with this big story that we are tracking from the United States of America, where after pulling off what is effectively one of the biggest upsets in modern American politics, New York City's mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani faces a pretty daunting task. His core promise is to make New York City affordable for everyone who lives in New York. But the question is this: can he meet and cope and bridge the fiscal and political realities of the city of New York? Now, during his very ambitious campaign, the 34-year-old Democrat socialist has promised free buses and childcare, affordable housing and the city-owned grocery shops that will be funded by taxing corporations and the wealthy. Now, Mamdani has said that he will introduce a 2% tax on the richest New Yorkers. But this would involve working with the New York State Legislature and Governor Kathy Hochul, who has said that she's opposed to new income taxes. Similarly, on Mamdani's promise of free childcare, Governor Catherine Hochul has said that she supports the goal but is warned of its price tag. At a press conference in September, Catherine Hochul had said that this move will cost New York City $7 billion. She later hinted that such a policy could be staggered over time instead of being delivered in one go. Now, Catherine Hochul is already contending with a $4.2 billion deficit, almost 4 times last year's gap. Federal cuts to healthcare and food stamps will fall the hardest on New York City. Mamdani is expected to face a $5 billion deficit in next year's budget. Mamdani also backs lifting the state corporate tax from 7.25% to 11.5%, matching that of New Jersey and tied for the highest corporate tax rate in the United States. Now, according to Mamdani's campaign, the tax hikes will raise $9 billion and also risks driving the top billionaires of New York to certain other lower taxed states. Now, the shadow of US President Donald Trump will also loom pretty large on Mamdani's reign as New York City's mayor. The Trump, who has berated Mamdani as a communist and a Jew hater, has already threatened to withhold federal funding. New York City's budget for the 2026 fiscal includes about $7.4 billion in federal funding, which will be a crucial resource pool for Mamdani's ambitious policies. When Mamdani enters the City Hall on the 1st of January next year, the New Yorkers will have their hopes incredibly high. But the big question, of course, is this: can Mamdani deliver on the promises that he has made to energize the New Yorkers to back him in his campaign to elect him as the mayor of New York? All right, now joining us on the broadcast, we've got Dr. Christina Iona Dragomir, who's a political analyst and a commentator, and she's joining us live on WION. Dr. Dragomir, it's a pleasure to have you back. You're joining us live from New York, the city that has just elected Zohran Mamdani as its mayor. So Mamdani has made something pretty fascinating. He said that New York should be affordable again for everyone. You know, behind that glittering image of skyscrapers and those high density of billionaires that we talk about of New York, 25% of New Yorkers live in poverty. And it is this segment that Zohran Mamdani wants to address very quickly. But the question is this: can he get the funds that are needed to put his campaign promises into practice?
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly a pleasure. I'm coming to you live from a very energized New York, as you rightfully said. People in New York have very high hopes about the future of New York City. And of course, some of them are critically engaged with the new mayor of New York and very worried about how this is going to be turning out. So what we are looking at is actually a constellation of interest that was not visible so much during the campaign. We have the campaign that was of a very charismatic, highly educated, very popular, as you can see on your screen, leader from New York City. But right now we are looking at a constellation. So as you rightfully mentioned earlier, we are looking at people coming in and having an input into the politics of New York. And some of them are the city council members. So they tend to be highly democratic, but a little bit more moderate than Zoran Mondani. So as a result of it, we can see how that's going to be a lot of negotiations, even within the city of New York, about the implementations of the new agenda of the mayor. So that's going to be one level of it. The second level is the level of the state in New York City, in which Governor Holker also has a really big impact because she can deliver or actually not deliver funds to New York City in which would lead to the implementation of this agenda. So, but there is something quite interesting in this. While Holker is actually opposed to raising taxes in New York State and in New York City, she actually is coming together with Mondani on certain items on the agenda, such as free education for all the children of New York State. So they may actually have some points in common on which they can work together. What I would like to bring to your audience view is the fact that in the United States and in New York City, we have three levels of taxation. We have federal level of taxation, which is national. We have the state, which is at the New York State level, but we also have taxation at the level of New York City. So the mayor also has quite a lot of freedom to raise taxes for New York City, not necessarily for New York State. So to deliver on his promises, he might have to raise taxes on the city of New York. But as he said, those taxes are going to be very targeted on the higher ups of the economic bracket structure of New York City. There have been rumors always that in the moment in which you're going to raise taxes in New York City, the very wealthy developers, business people, the tech business will actually leave New York. This has actually never happened. Of course, people are moving always in and out of big cities all across the world, and they are making decisions, but we have never seen a mass movement. Therefore, the predictions are saying that probably this is going to not be a movement that we're going to see happening in the nearest future. However, what Zoran Mondani will have to face is the probability of limiting funds coming from the federal government. Right. As we have seen, the presidency of Donald Trump has already threatened New York with limiting funds if Zoran Mondani will win the elections. This, however, it's highly illegal. You cannot stop funding from the federal level based on the political agenda or the political view of the mayor of New York City. This is a very complicated and a very long process, one in which the administration from Washington could engage in, but at the same time, at the level of New York City and New York State, they also have some measures in their hands in order to fight back.
Interesting. So it's going to be a pretty interesting thing to watch out as to how things unfold there. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Dragomir, for joining us from New York and getting us that perspective there.
My pleasure.